The following story has been brought to you by StoriesToInspire.org.
A bunch of years ago, I was, I'm an American now. I came to visit America. And it was around this time of year. Where are we? We're in February still, right? I think it was early February, maybe late January, early February. I can't remember why this happened. Oh, I remember. It was so cold. It was so cold. It was freezing. I can't remember how long ago this was. Maybe in my head, it must have been 7, 8, 9, 10 years ago, 11, 12, or 13, 14 years ago. It was in the last 40 or 50 years. And I arrived in an airport. I can't remember which one. And I went to go get the car. I went to go rent a car. And when I went into the car, it was so cold. I got into the car and it said like minus 6 degrees or something. Like, that is minus 6 degrees. Ad kedei kach, to the point that when I got to my location, I had a water bottle that was sitting on the floor. When I got there, it was frozen solid. And when I got back to Israel, I was telling the cab driver, I get into a cab, and he's like, "Oh, where were you?" You know, big talk. And I said, I was there. I was freezing. So I find sometimes, maybe everyone does this. I just find like Israelis like to make things intense. So he's like, I said, "Ken, I am od kar." It was very cold. He goes, "I don't know there was a cow. You don't know what cold is." I said, "Well," and I thought, I think I do. I think I know what cold is. He's like, "I don't know there was a cow." I'm like, I think it's, I don't know, אני לא יודע. אני לא יודע מה זה cow. It was just in my head. I don't even know what I was thinking. Third. He's like, "אני אגיד לך מה זה cow." It has to be in that deep voice also. "אני אגיד לך מה זה cow." I don't know. Every cab driver I've had was a elite specialist unit in the army. Every one of them. Like 140 years ago. All of them. So this guy tells me, he's like, when he was going to the army, he had a goal. His goal was he wanted to join a particular unit. I can't remember which one of the two. He wanted to join either something called Sayeret Matkal or Shayet and Shlosha. So these two elite units that they wanted to join. In order to get there, it's intense training. And he tells me that one of the things that they had to do that was part of the training, I think there's 600 applicants and only 2 end up making it. Most drop out on their own because they just can't handle it. And most fail the tests. They push through, but they fail. You know, so again, the majority of them give up. It's just like intense. He said one of them, and this is why the reason of the story, one of them is that he had to go and they tied their arms and legs and they were thrown into ice water. And they had to get out. So that's why most don't make it, by the way. It's a nice little way of getting rid of some people. I was like, okay. And then he says, "Let me tell you what happened. I was doing great. I was passing test after test after test. I was doing wonderful. Until finally it came to the very end, and suddenly I got such a stomach pain, I couldn't bear the pain. And I lied down on the floor, and my general came over and he said, 'What's the problem?' What's it? Like, "Babaya, the gun is on the bomb. No." He's like, "Okay." And he's like, jumped in again, and but he has such pain. He feels like he's dying. He doesn't know what's going on. So they call medical and they start checking. They're like, "We gotta take him to hospital." So they take him. He's like, "No, I don't have to go. He's like, "I'm totally fine. People are like, "I'm really okay." Oh, that's a normal way of standing constantly. He's like, "No, really, I'm fine. I like to get to the fetal position sometimes. It's just, it reminds me of my youth. I just like to do it." So he's like, nothing doing. He's like, "This is an order. Get in the ambulance," and they take him. They rush him to the hospital. They do every test under the sun. That's not true. It's like an expression people say. It's not really every test. There's a lot of tests you don't say, but a lot of tests. They come out with nothing. No kidney stones, no liver stones, no stomach stones. There's no stones. No rocks, nothing. And the guy's standing up and he feels 100% better. And they're like, what's your deal? He's like, I'm fine. They're like, why are you still in the fetal position? And then he stood up. He's like, I'm totally fine. They're like, okay, so they bring him back. When he gets back, he goes back in, and the general says to him, I'm so sorry, but you can't join. Why not? Because you left the test. He said, you told me to leave the test. He said, details of that. But you left. You ordered me to leave. I was thinking, details of that. I understand if you're frustrated. We do a suggestion box. It's circular and has a flap that opens and closes. It's by the door. Just put it in, and we'll throw it out in the morning. He's like, what are you talking about? But I want to be part of this so badly. Cries a little, gets back in the fetal position. See? No, it's a thing I do to cover myself. And then he says, nothing doing, you're not in. And he was devastated. He was devastated. He's thinking I worked so hard to get to this level. It's not like you join the army and you go to that. You have to go through years of training already. And then after that, decide to continue on. And his whole dream was to get there. And now the guy ordered him out and there's no problem. There was no problem. Nothing happened. And he had to leave because of him. And yet, come on, that's not fair. So this guy said, I went on to what's called Golani. I still joined a unit which I felt was worth, honoring and fighting for the country, but I never got to go there. Years later, there was an unfortunate discovery that became public. This unit that he wanted to join, that he wasn't zochet to join. He wasn't able to join. He really wanted. He wasn't able to. He used to do their training in a place called Nachal Kishon. I don't know if anybody familiar with Nachal Kishon and what happened. I don't mean Tanakh style. That's okay. Kaylini, stop showing off, right? But there's a place called Nachal Kishon in Israel, and his unit used to train there. He was the only one in that unit that was still alive today. Because every single person they would train in Nachal Kishon ended up dying. Not immediately. Some took years, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, but most of them died of cancer. Why? Because in Nachal Kishon, there were some plants around it that were illegally dumping chemicals into the water. And every time they went in the water, they were bathing in chemicals. And they ended up dying. This guy, though, when he got kicked out of the unit that he trained years to go to, was so upset and so frustrated. And how could you? And it's not fair. Sometimes we never get to see the end of the story. This is the unfortunate time he was able to see the end of the story. And he said, thank God I didn't get into that unit. Not getting in was BTE. The best thing ever. The circumstances that occur to our life, the things that we go through, those are the absolute best things that we could ever ask for.
Enjoyed this story? Come again. Bring a friend. StoriesToInspire.org